Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Stephen Ross has finally broken his silence, and the entire NFL world is buzzing about it. After weeks of rumors, speculation, and whispers across the league, the Miami Dolphins owner decided to step up and address the elephant in the room: TYREEK Hill's possible exit. For days, social media has been flooded with cryptic posts, deleted tweets, and sources claiming that Hill received a massive offer to leave Miami, one that could shake up the entire AFC. Now, Ross didn't come out swinging or throwing shade. Instead, he chose his words carefully, and that's what's making this whole situation even juicier. When an owner as calculated as Stephen Ross decides to speak, you know there's something going on behind the scenes. He admitted that yes, teams had reached out, and yes, TYREEK was aware of the interest, but he stopped short of confirming whether the offer was real or just another one of those leverage plays that agents love to float around. What he did make clear, though, is that the Dolphins are in a delicate spot, trying to balance cap space, locker room chemistry, and the ego of one of the fastest, most electrifying players in the league. Something's definitely cooking in Miami. Ross went on to talk about how much the organization values TYREEK Hill, not just as a player, but as a personality who transformed the Dolphins' culture. Since his arrival, Miami's offense has exploded. Tua Tagovailoa found his rhythm, and the city rediscovered its football identity. But Ross also dropped a line that felt loaded. Every great era has its challenges, and sometimes those challenges involve hard conversations. That phrase set the internet on fire. Was he hinting that the Dolphins are already preparing for life without Hill? Or was it just a reflection of the high-stakes business that the NFL has become? What's striking is how calm Ross seemed while addressing the rumors, almost as if he wanted to remind everyone that he's been here before, through trades, controversies, and player drama. Yet, the undertone of uncertainty was impossible to miss. He didn't confirm Hill was staying. He just said he hopes the focus remains on winning. And in the high-speed world of TYREEK Hill, hopes don't usually mean guarantees. That's why fans are nervous, and the rest of the league is watching closely. Inside sources around the Dolphins facility are saying that the tension has been simmering for weeks. Apparently, Hill's camp isn't thrilled about how some internal discussions have been handled, especially regarding long-term incentives and guarantees. When a player of TYREEK's magnitude feels underappreciated, even slightly, that can snowball quickly. Remember, this is the same guy who left Kansas City when things started feeling off. And let's not forget, he's got options. Rumors suggest that multiple teams, including at least one major NFC contender, have expressed interest in making him the centerpiece of their offense. Stephen Ross acknowledged that the business side of football is always evolving. But that's corporate talk for "we might be in trouble." Some reporters even noted that Hill hasn't been as vocal in team media sessions lately, choosing instead to let his performances do the talking. But now, with Ross's comments out in the open, it feels like the conversation has shifted. The question is no longer whether Hill will leave, it's when and how the Dolphins will handle the fallout. What's fascinating here is the psychology behind Ross's public statement. He's a businessman first, a showman second, and he understands the power of perception. By addressing the situation himself, Ross has taken control of the narrative, or at least tried to. He wants fans and potential trade partners to know that the Dolphins aren't desperate, that they still hold leverage. But insiders are whispering that behind closed doors, the tone is very different. There's frustration, some disappointment, and a sense that the organization might have underestimated how serious Hill's camp is about exploring other opportunities. TYREEK has always said he wants to retire a Dolphin, but that's the kind of line athletes use until a bigger check lands on the table. It's part loyalty, part leverage, and entirely part of the game. Ross's comments may have been an attempt to cool things down, but instead, they've lit a new fire, one that's spreading fast across locker rooms, media desks, and fan forums alike. Even the Dolphins players have started to pick up on the vibes. Several sources mention that team morale has been a little shaky, especially among the offensive stars who look up to Hill's leadership. Tua, for one, has reportedly been trying to keep things steady, emphasizing focus and unity. But when your number one weapon might be on his way out, it's hard to ignore. Stephen Ross tried to frame the situation as normal business, But there's nothing normal about losing a player like TYREEK Hill, not after investing so heavily in building a system around his unique skills. The fans are divided. Some believe Ross will do whatever it takes to keep Hill, while others think the Dolphins are quietly preparing to move on, perhaps stocking up draft picks or freeing up cap space for future stars. Whatever the truth is, Ross's comments have created more questions than answers, and in a league driven by momentum and headlines, that uncertainty is both dangerous and intoxicating. Everyone's talking, everyone's guessing, and no one really knows where this story will end. One thing's for sure, Stephen Ross knows the art of timing. He didn't speak when the first rumors broke. He didn't respond when insiders hinted at a trade request. He waited until the moment the noise became too loud to ignore. And now, with his statement echoing through the sports world, the Dolphins find themselves at a crossroads. Do they double down on their star and rework the numbers to keep him happy? Or do they quietly explore what kind of haul they could get in return? TYREEK Hill has always said he plays for love, for family, and for legacy. But the NFL is a business, and legacy only lasts as long as the next contract. Ross's decision to break the silence might just be the start of a larger storm, one that could reshape the future of Miami football for years to come. And as always, in this league, once the first domino falls, the rest follow fast. Now, the second part of this story gets even more interesting because behind every public statement, there's a private strategy. Insiders close to Stephen Ross claim that the Dolphins owner has been quietly working on contingency plans in case TYREEK Hill really does take that outside offer. Apparently, Miami has been scouting speed-oriented receivers in both the upcoming draft and free agency, hinting that the organization is preparing for multiple outcomes. It's classic Ross, always 3 steps ahead, always balancing risk with potential reward. But this isn't just about replacing Hill's talent. It's about filling the emotional void he would leave behind. TYREEK isn't just a player. He's a presence, a spark that energizes the locker room and ignites the fan base. Losing that would hit harder than any trade or salary cap figure. Some insiders believe Ross's recent calm tone was a facade, a way to buy time while his front office scrambles behind the scenes. The Dolphins have invested too much into this current roster to let chemistry fall apart now. But if TYREEK's mind is already halfway out the door, then Miami's hands might be tied. TYREEK Hill's camp, on the other hand, seems to be playing this game masterfully. They know their value, and they know that timing is everything. Sources close to Hill say that while he respects Stephen Ross and the Dolphins organization, he's aware that he might never have more leverage than he does right now. Coming off another explosive season and still one of the league's most marketable faces, Hill could easily spark a bidding war if he chooses to explore his options. Some believe that's exactly what's happening, not a full-blown exit strategy, but a carefully orchestrated power move. His agent has reportedly been fielding preliminary interest from several teams, framing them as hypotheticals for now. But the NFL isn't known for patience. Once a rumor like this hits, general managers start calling. And if even one of those calls turns serious, Miami could be forced into making a decision faster than they'd like. Ross's calmness might be genuine, or it might be a mask hiding quiet panic under the surface. Meanwhile, fans are caught in the middle of this storm, unsure who to believe or what to expect next. Some see Ross as the villain, a billionaire more focused on image than loyalty. Others argue he's simply doing what any smart owner would do, protecting the team's long-term stability. But the heart of this story is TYREEK Hill himself, a player who changed Miami's football DNA the moment he arrived. His connection with Tua, his swagger, his work ethic, all of it redefined what Dolphins football could be. So when the idea of him leaving started floating around, it hit the fan base like a gut punch. Social media has become a war zone of theories, some claiming Hill's just posturing for a bigger deal, others convinced he's already mentally gone. Either way, Stephen Ross's comments have turned the rumor into a headline. And in today's NFL, headlines have power. They shape negotiations, influence locker rooms, and sometimes even decide futures before contracts do. There's also a growing narrative that TYREEK might be chasing something bigger than money. Some analysts believe he's after legacy, wanting to prove he can dominate in any system, with any quarterback, under any coach. If that's the case, then the Dolphins' situation becomes even more complex. Stephen Ross can offer him money and status in Miami, but can he offer him fulfillment? Hill's personality thrives on challenges, and if he feels the Dolphins have plateaued or that their Super Bowl window is closing, that could be enough to push him toward a new adventure. Ross, for his part, hinted at understanding every athlete's personal journey, a line that sounded almost like acceptance. It's subtle, but in the world of sports politics, subtlety speaks volumes. If Ross truly believes that Hill's heart might be elsewhere, then his recent public calmness might be less about reassurance and more about resignation, a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes even billionaires can't control destiny. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? Around the league, other owners and GMs are watching this saga unfold with interest and maybe a little envy. Because make no mistake, if TYREEK Hill becomes available, the phone lines will light up instantly. Teams desperate for speed, leadership, and explosiveness would move mountains to get him. Stephen Ross knows this. He knows that if the situation deteriorates, he could at least leverage it into a king's ransom, draft picks, young talent, cap relief. But it's a dangerous game to play. Trade away a superstar too soon, and you lose your locker room. Hold on too long, and you risk chaos if things turn sour. That's why this moment feels so delicate. Ross's choice of words, Hill's silence, the front office's tight lips. It all feels orchestrated yet unpredictable, like a chess match where both players know the next move could define their legacy. And that's exactly what keeps fans glued to every update, every whisper, every cryptic post. As the dust settles, at least for now, one truth remains. The Dolphins' future is hanging by a thread of uncertainty. Stephen Ross has made his statement, but words alone won't stop the speculation. The team is in a defining moment, one that could either solidify its rise or unravel the progress of the past 2 seasons. TYREEK Hill's decision, whether he stays loyal or chases a new challenge, will ripple across the entire organization. Miami has been building towards something special, a mix of youth, speed, and ambition, and losing its brightest star could shift that balance overnight. Ross might have broken the silence, but in doing so, he's ignited the loudest conversation of the season. And as every NFL fan knows, when smoke appears this thick, there's almost always fire waiting underneath. The next few weeks could determine whether Miami remains a contender or becomes the league's biggest what-if. Either way, Stephen Ross's calm voice has set the stage for chaos, and the football world can't look away. Finally, sources suggest that the fallout from this confrontation may extend beyond Miami's immediate context, influencing how other franchises perceive the balance of power between players and coaches. Analysts speculate that if the Dolphins successfully navigate this period of heightened scrutiny, it could establish a precedent for player-led accountability interventions across the league, shifting dynamics in locker rooms where superstar influence is significant. Insiders indicate that the coaching staff is acutely aware of the spotlight, understanding that every tactical adjustment, sideline decision, and communication strategy will be evaluated not just on outcome, but on responsiveness to the heightened expectations voiced during the meeting. Players reportedly view this as a defining moment, a chance to align talent, culture, and strategy in a way that maximizes both personal and team potential, creating a scenario where collective accountability becomes a tangible driver of performance. Observers note that this evolving story embodies the tension, drama, and unpredictability that make professional football so compelling, blending athleticism, psychology, and organizational dynamics into a high-stakes narrative with real consequences. The Dolphins' next games, practices, and internal evaluations are likely to reveal whether the intervention succeeds in catalyzing transformation or exposes deeper fissures, providing fans, media, and league observers with a dramatic case study in leadership, culture, and performance under pressure. Rumors continue to swirl, insiders remain cautiously optimistic, and the NFL world waits with bated breath, knowing that Miami's unfolding drama could redefine expectations for what accountability, leadership, and player influence look like in modern professional football, marking a potential turning point not just for one team, but for the league's evolving cultural landscape. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.